What is self-inquiry and how do you do it? And this is only one possible way of doing it. It doesn't have to be done in this way. But what is self-inquiry? Well, once you've quietened the mind, and I usually do recommend quieting the mind before engaging with self-inquiry. Self-inquiry literally means the question, who am I? That's the simplest way of putting it. There are a few other variations on the question. Another variation which can be quite useful is, where does the I come from? Or whence am I? Whence am I means, where does the I come from? From where does I arise? So where does this notion of separation, of this sense of me as a separate entity, where does this I arise? Or who am I? Or what am I? So when the mind's calm and quiet, say, what am I? Who am I? Who am I? And it can become obvious that there's no one here, that there's no doer here. So that's basically self-inquiry. Now it has many, many different aspects to it, potentially, but it can just be that simple. There's some different ways we can talk about self-inquiry too. The question, who am I, can be used as a kind of a device, a tool to calm the mind, to quieten the mind. And this is the way traditionally it's been used in Vedanta and also in Zen Buddhism. The Zen Buddhism and the Chinese version of Zen, from which Zen came, Chan Buddhism, the Chan school of Buddhism, they also had this who am I question. They had this technique. It's pretty much the same technique. It's arisen, I think the teaching arose separately in China and separately in India, but it's exactly the same teaching. It's quite remarkable how a lot of teaching traditions, you get the same kind of techniques emerging in different places. But if you read some of the Chinese Chan masters, you'll hear them talking about, I think they call it the Ho-Tu. I'll probably pronounce that completely wrong, but I think it's called the Ho-Tu or something like that. It's the device that's used. It's basically asking, who am I? And when you read about it, these Chinese Chan masters are talking about it 1,000 years ago, and it's pretty much the same technique as the technique expounded by Ramana Maharshi, which is how most of us in the West have come across the term self-inquiry. But you can use it as a device to quieten the mind. So every time a thought comes into the mind, you say, who is thinking that thought? Or to whom does that thought appear? You say, the thought appears to me. And then you say, who am I? So it's a two-part process of self-inquiry, this one. The first part is saying, to whom does the thought appear? And then the answer is to me. That's the first part. And the second part is saying, well, who am I? Now, the advantage of doing it that way is that what you're doing in the first part, you say, to whom does the thought appear? To me. You're establishing me as the subject, the observer, awareness, that which is aware, the aware principle that is unchanging. So it's kind of getting the mind engaged with the fact that this is a subject-object way we're viewing reality. This is the paradigm through which we're viewing reality. We're artificially dividing reality into that which is seen, which is the world of objects, subtle objects, gross objects, the body, the mind, the world, the thoughts, feelings, sensations. These are all the myriad objects that are changing at differing rates. And then you say, who does that appear to? It appears to me. All these multitude of objects appearing to a single, solitary, unitary, whole, complete subject. Me. And you say, who am I? And what it does, if you're actually asking the question genuinely, you're not just repeating it like a mantra, you're actually genuinely looking, who am I? It stills the mind, because you're looking. Okay, imagine you've lost an object, a precious object, and you're looking for it. Your mind's just captivated on looking. Your thoughts have stopped momentarily, and you're just looking. So that's how this works. You're meant to not know who you are unless you're looking. And that act of looking stops the thoughts. So every time a thought comes up, you can use the tool, you can use the sword of self-inquiry to cut down the thoughts. Okay? So this is called using the mind to remove the mind. Using thought to remove thought. Using ignorance to remove ignorance. Why is it ignorance? Because it's just a fixed and it's a fixed and conceptual way of viewing reality. Who am I? Subject, object. The non-duality is when that kind of subject-object duality is seen itself to be a construct. But whilst the ignorance is in our system, in our body-mind system, whilst it's acting, we use a tool of thought, in this case self-inquiry, to remove the ignorance. It's an antidote. That's another way self-inquiry can be done. The first way I mentioned was just to calm the mind. Relax, notice what's happening. And then you could say, is there anyone here? And it can become obvious there's no doer. The second way is this two-part method that was often advocated by Ramana Maharshi, which is whenever a thought arises, you say, to whom does this thought arise? It arises to me. And then who am I? And then you look. The idea is to actually look. It's quite interesting because in the Chan, in this Chinese version of Zen, as I said, it's Zen came from Chan, so it's not right to say the Chinese version of Zen. But a lot of people have heard of Zen, but they've never heard of Chan. But in the Chan Buddhism, they talk about creating a doubt, the importance of creating a doubt in the mind, which sounds quite strange. But the thing is, the doubt means you're looking. Because the answer is not meant to be a mystery. The answer, who am I? Well, I'm in the Vedanta teachings is, well, I'm Sat Chit Ananda. I am pure consciousness, that which is ever present, unchanging, and blissful. So I know that. That's who I am. I am that which is aware of everything and that which is untouched by anything. And in Zen, the terminology they use is mind. They use mind with a capital M, not meaning thought, but that which is aware of thought. And the Zen concept of mind is slightly different to the Vedanta concept of awareness or consciousness. They're quite similar. There's a slight difference. The Vedanta concept, they really have a very clear line of separation between subjects and objects, at least initially. Whereas in the Zen tradition, they're much more spurious. They're much more iffy. They don't delineate between subject and object, the absolute and the relative, so clearly. And there are advantages and disadvantages of both these techniques. So yeah, they talk about mind. Who is it that is? Who am I? I'm mind, with a capital M, or I'm Buddha mind. I'm Buddha nature. I am that which both doesn't change on one hand, and on the other hand, is everything that is changing. They call it, sometimes they call it the Tao, or the great function. They call it the great function, meaning it's that principle which is here, ever present, and manifesting everything. And so changing with the manifestation, but at the same time, the essence of it is unchanging. So if you're a Zen or a Chan Buddhist, you know the answer already. So, you don't say, who am I? And then you go, oh, I'm conscious, sorted, done. You can dust your hands with it. No, the idea is to create a doubt. So you create a doubt in your mind. You say, oh, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. So this is how the technique works, you see. You say, I'm not quite sure. Or traditionally what happens is the Zen master will create a doubt in your mind by contradicting something that you thought was true. So the Zen master say, who am I? You say, I am mind. And then he'll say, or she'll say, no, you're not mind. You go back and work on it more, and you think, I thought I had it. I don't have it. I've got to look now. So whenever a thought comes up, you say, to whom does the thought appear? It appears to me. Who am I? And then you actually have to look. And it's that doubt, that not knowing who you are, that makes you look. And it's that not knowing who you are that stops the thoughts. So that's a different aspect of the self-inquiry process. You want to hear another form of self-inquiry? I've got a few. I've got like all these different tricks up my sleeves here. Okay, another form of self-inquiry. Whence am I? Ramana Maharshi used to often say, where am I? Who am I? Or whence am I? Whence means, it's like a slightly antiquated word that means from where do I come from? From where does this I arise? And this is quite interesting because it's got a slightly different twist to it. Again, you calm the mind. You calm the mind right down. And then you try and look to see the I arising. So if you calm the mind right down, you spend a good, number of minutes just allowing your mind to relax, not caring about self-inquiry. It could be 10 minutes, it could be 30 minutes. Until your mind's nice and peaceful and calm. There's no thoughts there, or very little thought. And the thoughts as they arise, they haven't really got much energy to them. You're not really engaging with the thoughts. Excuse me. So in that situation, the mind's calm, and then you can look and see from where does this I arise. So now you've kind of got a blank canvas, and you're looking for the I to kind of pop its head up and notice where it comes from. That's a different take on self-inquiry. Another way of performing self-inquiry is to get in touch with the sense of I, or I am. So there's different ways of doing this. But one of them is to repeat the word I, like a mantra, in your mind, again and again and again. I. Or you can say me, or I am. And then what you want to do is try and get a sense of what this me is. Try and get a sense of what this I am is. And you can just stay with that. And you can stay with that for days and days and days and weeks and weeks and weeks until you've got this real clear sense of what me is and what me isn't. Because a lot of us have this kind of vague sense of there's a me, but I don't really know what that me is. It's just kind of this vague sense that there's a me here, an independent doer entity. Well, what is that me? So really take the time to get a handle on what I am, on what me is. And then, once you've got a good handle on it, it can become very obvious that which you're calling me or I meaning the subject, is not a subject, it's an object. It's something that is known, it is something that is experienced. It is not that which is known, it is not that which knows. It is not the experiencer, it is not the subject, it's an object, and so it's not me. So you notice, what am I? What am I? Me. And then you say, well, what is this me? And you notice that this me is an object, it's not a subject, it's not I, it's not the true I, which is the subject. And these are all different methods. These are all different methods of breaking through this illusion of doership, this illusion of separation. These are just different methods. And just, you can experiment with it and find your own method. I've given you a few methods here. And you can see which one works for you. For me, I never actually liked the self-inquiry method that Ramana used to teach the most. And as you know, I've got a strong resonance with him as a teacher, with Ramana Maharshi's teachings. I've got strong resonance with them. But actually, I don't really follow his teachings, actually, even though there's a strong resonance. And I often found it easy just to say me. Get in touch with that me, and then realize, oh yeah, that's an object. That felt more natural to me. Whereas sometimes if you do too much self-inquiry, like, to whom does the thought appear? It appears to me, or who am I? That can give you a bit of a headache sometimes. And that happens to a lot of people. It can really disrupt the energy flow in the body. When people can't try and do that kind of self-inquiry, especially for extended amounts of time. Not everyone, but a lot of people find that quite difficult energetically. And Ramana used to say the self-inquiry is like a stick that is used to prod the ashes on a funeral pyre. It's like a stick used to prod the ashes on a funeral pyre. You use a stick to move around the burning dead body. And then once the body is burnt up, you throw the stick in as well, and the stick itself disappears. So the question, who am I, is like the stick. Eventually, it's just a device. It's just a tool that we provisionally take up and use in order to remove this ignorance and any vestiges of this ignorance. Because many seekers have already seen through the self, seen through the separate self once or twice or thrice or whatever. Maybe so many times, but the ignorance is strong and it keeps on coming back because the force of habit is there. So we often need a tool or a practice to take up in order to weed out the vestiges, the remnants of this ignorance. And in the Chan, in the Zen school, the Chan school, they have the same question. They say you have to have a doubt. You have to take care of that doubt. Make sure that doubt is there. So you look, and then that stops the thoughts. And when the thoughts are stopped, you're starving ignorance of the air it needs to breathe.